Casey, I'm about to start the show. Hello, Savannah. Hello, Savannah. Happy 2023. We are so excited to be here with you again on a Monday, bringing you news that you can use, news where we need you to engage and get involved, and news that you would not have otherwise known of unless you were tuned in to Kandily Kesha. So before we go any further, I want you to pause and share. Hit the share button with a few people, and I'm going to do the same here. And Mr. Benton, if you can do the same, we're going to just go. You already have? Thank you so much. We are produced from the platform Our Black Media, or All Things Relevant. So if you go there, you should be able to share.
Yeah, it's coming in.
There we go. Okay, so with us today is Mr. LaRay Benton, born and raised right here in the Low Country and hailing from Washington, D.C., but I understand that you are home and you have been here for a couple of weeks now. More specifically, I want to jump right into well, we recognize the work you've done with helping to save Yamacraw. You and Mr. Maxwell, the members of First Bryan Church, your mother, Georgia Benton, several advocates who have been at this effort for a long time. More recently, we were presented with notification that Yamacraw was up for demolition, much like many housing development communities across the United States. And of course, for us here in Savannah, that was alarming because not only do we have a housing shortage, and we know that the location with regard to proximity to the historic district and the tourism industry, the corridors of tourism, I should say, of Savannah, that's a highly coveted piece of real estate.
It is.
But we were further alarmed and somewhat concerned in that it's sacred land, much like the Weeping Time. And for several reasons, efforts needed to go forth to save it. But you all took extra steps. You took big steps. You took steps that cost money to really see that effort through. So I want you to start at the top and just kind of walk us through where we are with housing and our crises in Savannah, the state of public housing here in Savannah, and what you and your family have done.
Okay. Well, thank you, future mayor. I appreciate you for giving me an opportunity to come on your show. One, just in terms of just the status of affordable and low-income housing in the city of Savannah, it is all but dwindled. If you think about it, only few affordable housing, true affordable housing communities that are left are Yamacraw Village, Kayton Homes, Fraizer Homes. Those are our only historically African American communities that are actually left here in the city of Savannah. Over the years, the housing authority has strategically deleted and just really disseminated the predominantly African American housing projects, as they call them, but they are actually African American communities within the city of Savannah, to include some Hitch Village, Fred Wessels, Blackshear, and even Garden Homes. And so obviously with Yamacraw Village, being that it's prime property, right? Prime property right there in the city of downtown Savannah. It was a target, and the powers that be just simply thought that those that within the Yamacraw community would just roll over and allow them to decide the future for the residents, as opposed to the residents and the businesses and the actual entities there in the community, such as First Bryan Baptist Church, that we were not going to have any say so. But that truly wasn't the case. But like anything, there is a process, right, that should be followed and that is supposed to be followed, especially when you are a recipient of any federal dollars, right? And that's what me and my family did. Was we made the city of Savannah, and in particular Early and Davidson Housing Authority, follow the federal processes and the state processes that are actually in place, right? And so when my mother made me aware of the application to demolish Yamacraw that was submitted, that's when I reached out to some of my contacts within the federal government, and also understanding federal law and regulation myself. That's when I actually looked up federal procedures that were supposed to be followed, which are outlined in Section 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations. And from that standpoint, I understood that the only way that we were actually going to hold the city and housing authority accountable was to actually file a lawsuit. And that's what was done in February of 2022. That's when we formally filed our lawsuit within the Superior Court of Chatham County.
And your filing of that lawsuit essentially brought the demolition plan to a screeching halt.
Yes, it did. It did. Because filing what the lawsuit did was it forced not only the federal government but the state government and the city to actually look into and actually review what actions the housing authority were taking and or didn't take. And so where some may say that the lawsuit was essentially dismissed, right? In which it was, but the lawsuit was successful, and from the standpoint that it brought attention to Yamacraw Village. It actually brought attention to what was not being done by the housing authority. I mean, something as simple as any decision in regards to that, and even the use of public funds, that should have came before the city council.
Mm-hmm. And let me just say this, Mr. Benton, there is very little that we are made aware of as a council with regard to any public housing property. I have made appeals and written letters asking for status updates of repairs at Stillwell, information pertaining to boarded units that are not being used, the dilapidated state of many of the housing development units in our city. There is a gym on the property of Kayton Homes that is currently being used as storage. When we have vulnerable youth in that community who could essentially be benefiting from and taking advantage of that facility, we have made appeals. We have asked multiple city managers. As you know, I've been in office now 3 years and almost 2 months. And in that time, we have had 4 city managers. And so between each of those city managers, we have advocated for more information, more accountability, just to have board members who we are supposed to appoint report to us in some form on a regular basis. But unfortunately, Mr. Benton, what we learned in short order that the mayor, the current mayor, actually single-handedly and unilaterally selected board members to serve on the Housing Authority Board. I believe there's only 5 board members total for the entire Housing Authority organization. And the persons he have selected, of course, have been his friends, his buddies. And so there's no accountability there. We have not received much by way of transparency from Earlene Davis. And as a sitting councilwoman, I think it's just irresponsible for us to say we do not know what's going on.
I agree with you. And not only that, it's actually a violation of the city ordinances and the code, right? On one level, you can actually say that it's actually a misuse and a misappropriation of funds, right? Because even for, Earlene Davis to direct staff or whatever to actually devise any application and everything go before HUD, right? Those funds have to come out of the coffers of the city, which those monies are actually owned by the residents and the business owners, right? Because Earlene Davis is not in a elected position, so she really doesn't have any authority as to how to use and appropriate city-owned funds, because that belongs to the treasury of the city of Savannah, which belongs to the citizens of Savannah, right? And so again, those decisions are supposed to come before the council for the council to at least as this our elected officials to at least discuss, inquire, and just to make sure that everything is being done above board. But most importantly, to make sure that the citizens' best interests are in mind, and that has been our fight and our main argument is simply that no one has came within the Yamacraw community to actually inquire what the citizens desire to have, what the businesses within the Yamacraw community and the churches desire to have, like the nonprofits that who serve them, like no communication has been had at all. I mean, even up to date, no one formally from the city of Savannah, nor the housing authority or any entity uh, from the city of Savannah or even Chatham County has even attempted to reach out to actually, me and my mother or those organizations who have been speaking up on behalf of Yamacraw Village, just to even have a conversation. That still hasn't been done, and so that's why we just have to continue to hold their feet to the fire, and actually make sure that our federal regulators, in this case, HUD, and actually is actually HUD and the Department of Treasury, but also the state of Georgia, actually hold the city and Erling Davis accountable and make sure that they do what they're supposed to do.
And so with regard to the city accountability, you made outreach as far as your backyard in Washington, D.C. Myself, Alderwoman Blakely, and Alderwoman Lanier joined you at a meeting with aides who represent Senator Warnock. And so tell me what came of that meeting, if anything.
Yeah, so during that time, it was a timely meeting because obviously y'all were already in Washington D.C., so that made it easier. So I reached out to some of my contacts on Capitol Hill and arrange a meeting directly with you, with yourself, Alderwoman Lanier, and also Alderwoman Blakely, to actually meet directly with the staff and representatives of Senator Warnock, who actually represents this district, this area, and also who grew up in Savannah, right there in Kayton Homes, to one, bring awareness to what was really going on in Yamacraw Village, and I felt like that move was needed and strategic to make sure that our voices don't get swept up under the rug, because if we can be honest, the residents who actually live there in Yamacraw, they're actually either there to to live, work, and provide shelter for their family, right? Or for those senior citizens, they've worked the majority of their lives and they are retired and are on fixed income, right? Or for the veterans that actually live in Yamacraw Village, and there are some, they've already served their country with honor, and again, they are also on fixed incomes, and so what we wanted to make sure was that we spoke up and we make sure we empowered and gave them a voice. And sometimes you have to actually use your political connections to make sure the right thing is getting done. Right. And that's exactly what we do. And we appreciate y'all making yourselves available during that time to actually meet with Senator Warnock on the and speak about the best interest of all of the citizens of the city of Savannah, but in particular those who actually live in Yamacraw Village, Kayton Homes, and Fraizer Homes. So thank you for that.
Right, and I want to say a few things to your comments there, specifically with regard to residents, current residents of Yamacraw. Um, as you know, a young girl, Desiree Gilliard, was killed in Yamacraw, and to date, her murder has not been solved. And so we are still in contact with her mother, and we want to acknowledge on her behalf. She's having a memorial celebration for Desiree. It's a celebration on her birthday, February 15th. The celebration will be from 6 to 10 at the Quality Inn at 7100 Abercorn Street. 7100 Abercorn Street, um, on February 15th from 6 to 10. Everyone is invited to come out and provide support to this family. Um, Contributions are being asked for as well, and the attire is formal. Now, um, if anyone has any information with regard to Desiree Gilliard's death, please contact Savannah Metro or reach out to Crime Stoppers. LaRay, Mr. Benton, you no longer live in Yamacraw. Your family are no longer residents of Yamacraw. But what is your interest outside of the fact that your church is on the perimeter of Yamacraw, First Brian? What is your interest in Yamacraw? Why are you doing this? You live in Washington, D.C. Why do you care?
Because it's the right thing to do. It's plain and simple. One, the Bible does say, "Love thy neighbor as thyself," right? Um, how can we as a member of First Brian in the congregation welcome in, the members and the masses of Yamacraw Village every Sunday, every Wednesday, every Tuesday, anytime the church is open, but at the same time turn our backs on them when the help is needed most, right? So from that standpoint, me personally, I feel like it's my duty to stand up for them. But also, Yamacraw Village is a part of the larger community that my church serves. So what happens and the effects that happen to Yamacraw Village as a community also affects my home church. And in particular with the demolition plans and everything, that had grave implications on the structural integrity of First Brian Baptist Church, which is that's my home church. I've never attended any other church, So I also saw that as my duty to actually continue to serve my home congregation and get involved to make sure that First Brian continues to stand for another 235 years. So my interests are intertwined from that standpoint, but generally, like it's the right thing to do, and just with my mom's support and really me supporting her, right? Because she's really the one taking the lead, and I'm just the worker bee supporting her. But just even from my fraternity standpoint, Mega Psi Phi fraternity, we're always willing to step in and stand up for our community, and sometimes that means taking a long road, taking a lonely road, in order to make sure that we preserve and do what's best. So I have no personal interest. I have no political interest, not trying to run for office or anything like that, but it was simply, the right thing to do. And just using the knowledge, the background, the information that I have to actually just speak up. You know what I mean? For those that did not know how to speak up for themselves, and did not know how to preserve a roof over their head, because when this all first started, a lot of residents just thought that they were going to be displaced, and evicted at any time. And from a social science standpoint, that's called trauma.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? That can be considered as PTSD,
Mhm.
right? Because
Definitely.
that is the added stress and trauma that they don't deserve to be under, but unfortunately they were.
Mhm. And,
So I
and
guess.
when you say take a stand with First Bryant, we know that literally the stance of the physical stance of the church was also threatened with the acknowledgement of a demolition plan because of how the church is erected.
Mhm.
So this whole idea or notion of demolishing Yamacraw goes beyond the talk or the thought that the units are too small to renovate or they are no longer uh, uh, useful for today's modern family with regard to the square footage, so forth and so on. What are your thoughts, or what can you share with us in terms of the elements that make a demolition plan for Yamacraw not only palatable but feasible with regard to the Native American history,
Mhm.
the physical threat to surrounding properties, and there are a few
Mhm.
more things. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. Well, okay. So, first of all, let me tell you how we got there, right? Um, as part of our lawsuit, we highlighted the fact that both HUD and the city of Savannah and the Housing Authority and the state of Georgia was actually required to conduct what's called a Section 106 historical assessment of the community before any demolition activities could be started. Right? That's a federal requirement. Every single federal agency is required by federal law in Section 38 of the Code of Federal Regulations to actually conduct a historical assessment on any structure, um, and on any structures which may be subject to any decision that they make.
Hmm.
That's every federal agency. That's not just limited to HUD. All right. So, knowing that, uh, I I had to point that out. Not only to the city, but to several federal agencies to say, hey, like this assessment was never done. Just something as simple. And I also had to use the church as the focal point
Hmm.
in from a historical perspective, right? To actually drive home the fact that at the time of my filing, First Brian Church was there for 234 continuous years, right? The current building, itself, right there, was built in 1888,
Mm.
right? So the current sanctuary itself was older. It's not built on a concrete slab, right? It's actually has a mixture between brick and a wooden foundation.
Mm.
When you think about it, even just having a construction background, if any demolition was to start, as soon as you start digging in the ground and everything else, those trembles and everything could actually negatively affect the foundation and the structure of the church, and
Wow.
even potentially cause the church to collapse, right? As well as the stained glass windows in the church that have also been there for over 100 years that we know of. And so having to replace those, again, that's a loss, that's a damage
Mm-hmm.
by which honestly, the city of Savannah and the citizens of the city of Savannah would have been held responsible for paying and replacing.
So those are some serious aggravating circumstances, to say the least, in terms of this whole plan. What and who wasn't at the table when this thought or this conversations, was this just a decision that was thrust upon you all and you had no say in it until you fought back, or how did this all come about?
Well, no one ever reached out to anyone in the Yamacraw village community. Anyone, right? And let me say this: the Yamacraw village community, really when I say the community, you have businesses on the fringes, right? Such as the hotels there. You got the Scarborough House and then Strawberry House and all those, and then you got SCAD and all that on the back side of the hotels, right? But they're not formally a part of the Yamacraw community, right? With them, the city never reached out to those business owners either to even get their input into the future of Yamacraw, right? But in particular, the city was required to tell each resident, for example, that by federal law, every resident in Yamacraw actually have the legal first option to purchase the actual residence in which they're living in. Right? That was never, that option and that discussion was never had with any of the residents. Right? The residents were never educated to the fact that even though they actually have a HUD voucher, a Section 8 voucher, as most people know them, right? According to federal law, they can actually use that same Section 8 voucher to actually purchase a home, to actually purchase a condo, right? So let's say if if Yamacraw Village is redeveloped, right? The residents actually can use and take those same HUD vouchers and actually purchase them a condo, a townhouse, or whatever residence may be redeveloped within the community, right? They can use their federal voucher to actually secure them a home within Yamacraw Village, right? But again, they're not telling the residents that, and us that are at the table who know of this, right? Let's say the housing authority didn't know, right? That's fine. You didn't know. But at the same time, you never engage those of us that are here in the community who actually are serving the community and have been here for years, right? To actually have a plan as to say, hey, how can this be a win-win for everyone, right? There is a plan and a positive path forward in which everyone can actually benefit, but at the same time, in the way that it has been going, all right, prior to our engagement, it's all been one side. At a minimum, the congregation of the church, we were never formally engaged or brought to the table, for any plan. And so, whereby everything that me and my mother have filed and done have been on our own independent accord, separate from First Bryan Baptist Church. The church had nothing to do with any of the lawsuits or anything like that. They're not engaged. We still saw it as a secondary effect that could have an effect on the church. So we did what we needed to do.
And before I want to close with the exciting opportunity that Pastor Pittman and the First Bryan Church have ahead. I'm so excited for the project that will come as a result of this good news. But before we close, I know that you have filed several open records requests, and you've made requests for information from the Housing Authority as well as the City of Savannah. And more recently, in your asking questions of me, I essentially passed those questions on to the city manager. Based on the information that I shared with you and the information you received via open records request, what can you share with us with regard to what that information yields or reveals? But also, where are we now?
Good, all great questions. So where are we now is this, right? So this past week on Tuesday, I sent my open records request early Tuesday morning, right? As soon as and obviously when I send my notices, I don't just limit it. I just don't limit it to the city of Savannah. I made sure that all of the council, the commissioners and everything with the Chatham County were involved. I made sure everyone, both in the region and the corporate office, well, the headquarters office of HUD was involved. Other Georgia state agencies and political connections were also CC'd on the email. But simply, what I know is, okay, we knew that the Section 106 historical assessment was being done, but at the same time, we knew it also should have been completed at the time, right? No one informed us that it was already completed, right? What I also know is that, according to federal law, with any assessment, there has to be an opportunity for public comment and public feedback, which wasn't done, right? And so, ironically, after I sent my email CCing everybody on Tuesday, the very next day, the very next day, some communication went out from the city about a survey for Yamacraw Village, right? Soliciting input, right, for Yamacraw Village. And then the city attorney, the attorney is representing the city, attorney Brown, I believe her name is. She formally responded to my request on that Thursday, right? But the issue with that is, so yes, currently right now there is a survey, and I actually posted the survey on the Facebook link, so people can actually go and read and download not only the preliminary results of the historical assessment, but also the survey. And what the survey is for any and everyone. It doesn't matter if you live in Yamacraw Village or not. Doesn't matter if you live in the city of Savannah or not. If you visited the city of Savannah and passed by Yamacraw Village and you wanted to provide input, by federal law, you can provide input. Right? However, the city has strategically only listed very limited times, right? In which the survey can actually be filled out and completed, right? So, for example, the city is actually hosting 2 sessions on January the 30th, right? And it's actually going to be at the Coastal Georgia Center at 305 Farm Street, right? But they're only having this public meeting, an opportunity for the public to comment at 11 to 1 and then from 4 to 6, right? 11 to 1 and 4 to 6. And if you think about January 30th, that's during the week, right? People are at work, right? In particular, the residents of Yamacraw Village, they at work, right? From 4 to 6, the residents of Yamacraw Village are trying to make it back home from work and school, right? So if you were really wanting to solicit input and do the right thing, why would you actually hold it on one day during that time, right? And even providing surveys for the community to respond. So what we actually have done is that this upcoming Saturday, from 10 to 1, we will be making the church available. First Bryan Baptist Church will be open from 10 to 1. We were already open for tours and everything to the public, but also during this time, we actually are going to make ourselves available for any member of the public to come in and actually get an update about what's going on in Yamacraw and the actual
Awesome.
survey, right?
Awesome.
So we're actually going to have not only myself, but other representatives who are some of which were involved in the historical assessment, actually provide updates on what's going on in Yamacraw. But also we're open. We're also providing that time for the community to come in and actually complete the surveys. During this time, we're also going to be going door to door in the Yamacraw community to actually assist the residents of Yamacraw with completing these surveys. So, if anyone would like to donate your time and assist us with going door to door, we'll have the help, right? If there are any like college students and even some of the high school students who, may need community service hours, right? This is definitely will be considered community service and an opportunity for you to get out and assist. I definitely invite all of my Divine Nine constituents, right? The Omegas, the Alphas, the Kappas, the Sigmas, the Deltas, Sigma Gamma Rhos, the Zetas, everyone in Divine Nine, right? The Iotas as well. If y'all want to come out and assist us on this Saturday,
Is that a challenge?
it
Is that
is.
a Divine Nine challenge?
It is because the Omegas, we're gonna be there. I promise you. But
Okay.
but again, we see ourselves as just the standing in the gap to do what the city should be doing, but they're not doing, right? As simply as something as simple as actually having and hosting a open community meeting at an appropriate time. So
Gotcha.
that's what's being done this Saturday, this coming Saturday from 10 to 1.
Okay. Well, at some point this evening, if you would put that information in the chat for me so that people will have a point of reference. And in closing, Mr. Benton, and again, thank you so much for taking time out to come on. We do know that you have a lot of irons in the fire, but I wanted to specifically focus on Yamacraw tonight. But we cannot talk about Yamacraw. As I stated, I can't ever say Yamacraw without thinking about this sweet child who was killed in Yamacraw, Miss Desiree Gilliard. A celebration of her life will be on February 15th, remembering her life. That is February 15th from 6 to 10 at the Quality Inn at 7100 Abercorn Street. It is a formal affair, and her mom is asking people to come out and provide support to the family. Moving forward to the better news for that area is news that First Bryan Baptist Church is recipients of some major grant dollars. Tell us how much, what is it going to be used for, and give us a timeline. I want to say congratulations again to Pastor Pittman and the First Bryan Church family.
Now, well, thank you. Yeah, we're very excited about that. We actually applied. It's called the Saving Black Churches grant, in short. But it was a federal grant that we applied for, and we actually got awarded $175,000.
Wow.
To be used, to actually be used towards the upkeep of the church. In a particular, the roof and actually helping to replace some of those stained glass windows. So we're very excited about that. And we're appreciative of the support from the community, to include yourself, and just assisting us, with that grant. And that grant is just going to allow us to um, better serve the community by just making sure that the structure of the church continues to be upgraded, and just continue to make sure that Rich Brian is here for another 235 years. But no, we are very excited about that. And myself, along with Anthony Maxwell and Bob Swell, and the Yamacraw Restoration Project, and Ellie Isaacs and their company. Like we have a great team that worked on that. And so as the grant committee that we have established, there we that's something that we're definitely proud about.
Well, we are so excited. I had very little to do with it. I just wrote a little support letter for the application packet. I understand that several churches across the United States were selected. A couple million in total was allocated to about what, 4 or 5?
Yeah, 4 million. It was actually 4 million in total, spread across 35 churches.
35 churches. Okay.
35 churches, and little old First Bryant was the one that we actually were selected, one of the very few churches in the Southeast that were selected for this grant opportunity.
And now that you we're talking about grants a little bit, I just want to pause because I've been contacted over the last several months from by individuals who are seeking grants or wanting to write a grant. And I want to just say this about grants. First, I didn't know. I move so fast. Whatever you ask me for, I usually try to accommodate, as well as anyone who presents a request to us. And so, as I stated, it was simple to sign off on a letter to support the grant. But when it comes to acquiring grant dollars for any project, Mr. Benton, there are several processes as well as people who are involved. And so, with regard to this particular grant, was there any deliberate grant research being done on behalf of looking for grants? Because from my position in terms of a grant writer, it's grant writing is a three-headed beast, right? You have the grant research, you have to find the right grant. All grants are not created equal. And then you have the actual grant writing, and that's the art and skill of actually putting together the parts or the packet or filling out the application in the portal, if you will, and then ultimately submitting it. And then the final step is the grant maintenance. And that's when you have to do the reporting and the reviews and the evaluations, that kind of thing. So how did this come about for First Brian? How and who was knowledgeable of it? How did it happen?
Well, I mean, it was a team effort. Definitely Rosalind McDaniel, one of the deaconesses in our church. She was always forward thinking, just in terms of securing grants for the church.
Okay, so that's her job, or one of the
Well,
jobs.
I wouldn't say that's her job, but she's more
A
she's
role.
a member of the finance committee. But it was just part of her initial brainchild, just in terms of and trying to further provide more financial assistance to the church, for us to, like you said, research the right grants to apply for, and actually go down the process of collecting the historical documents, right? So, I had to actually, go to the National Archives and actually and find the actual original pictures and application when our church went on the federal registry back in 1978. You know, because I was again historical information that we needed because when you
Mm-hmm.
apply for grants like this, they a lot of entities want to understand and know the historical significance, right, of your church or your organization and how you're servicing the community. Not everybody knew that First Bryan Baptist Church was actually the oldest African American or Black Baptist church in the United States. And that our founder, the church also it has the oldest piece of continuously held African American land in the country.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to understand and know, it's a skill, it's an art as to what you need to project and show in support of the grant,
Right.
uh, but also in how you present the information.
Mm-hmm.
And being that I do have my experience, with working in the federal government. I knew and understand how things needed to be presented because when you submit things for federal grants and or state grants, it's a certain level, the certain things that they look for,
Mm-hmm.
but you also have to be very succinct, in your message.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where a lot of grant applications lose the reviewers that they don't capture the essence of what they're asking for within a short period of time and with short words.
Right.
You submit a large package and expect
Mm-hmm.
a grant reviewer to go through that massive material, and 9 times out of 10 they don't.
Right.
So
And most of the time, the funders, while they have the resources, they don't have enough for everyone who is making application.
right.
Therefore, before they're seeking to find the right project to fund, they're weeding people out first, right?
Mhm.
And so that's why something you said early on about the connections you have in DC, having a relationship
Mhm.
or making contact, direct contact with the funder, establishing a rapport
Mhm.
with someone who is a part of the entity is also of benefit as well.
Right. Right. No, it is. It is. And just one thing, um, I do want to make sure is stated. But before we get off, just in closing, is simply
Mhm.
this. Um, just to make it clear for everyone, um, there is no application to actually demolish Yamacraw Village. It's not in place, right? The in May of 2022, um, the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, i.e. HUD, actually sent a objection letter back to city attorney, that's the city manager, Mr. Melder, and also to Earlene Davis, informing them that their application to demolish Yamacraw Village was actually rejected by HUD. So, any and all information that the housing authority or Earlene Davis or even the city of Savannah has been publicly stating in terms of there's a pending application before HUD. There is no pending application before HUD. Right? They've actually rejected the city's request to demolish Yamacraw Village. That's a
Hmm.
fact. They've also required that the housing authority actually resubmit an application, that they actually engage the stakeholders that they were supposed to engage, such as the church, such as the community, right? And also, bring that, make sure that the city council is actually, involved, right? But at a minimum, um, the main thing that I see came out of not only the historical assessment, but feedback from HUD is that the housing authority is required to actually come up with a plan as to how they are going to retain all 315 units that are currently in Yamacraw Village within the community, even after redevelopment,
Hmm.
right? So the housing authority and the city of Savannah know you are required to actually come up with a plan that works best and works to the advantage of how we're going to retain all 315 affordable and low income housing units right there in Yamacraw Village. You
That's
cannot
right.
replace them. You cannot just give them a voucher and say you're going to go anywhere, because everyone even knows now there's a waiting list for affordable housing, within the city of Savannah.
Right.
So, and
And
the city of
landlords
Savannah is
are
not
not
building.
right. And the other thing to that, Mr. Benton, you can hardly find a landlord in this city who will take a Section 8 voucher. Let's
Yep.
face it, you have 2-bedroom apartments that are renting for more than an average mortgage.
Mm-hmm.
The housing market, because of our failed uh, opportunities or initiatives to put forth, if not rent control, some incentives for
Mm-hmm.
landlords. We have done nothing to protect the residents. I have been receiving calls from individuals since last year indicating that they have to move because their rent is going up. And their
Mm-hmm.
rent is not going up by $50. Their rent is not going up by $100. People are being assessed an additional $500 with just 1 or 2 months notice. And so the system is broken across the city,
Mm-hmm.
across the housing, uh, the housing authority,
Mm-hmm.
and it's further exasperated by the fact that we have so many units in this city that are just sitting unused.
Right.
And
Right.
we're not going to talk about the dilapidated state and
Mm-hmm.
the eyesore and the crime and the
Mm-hmm.
litter and everything
Mm-hmm.
else that comes with this type of neglect, which I, for one, believe is by design. It's
Right.
you neglect it. Don't repair it. Don't repair it. I believe for the entire public housing services here in our city, we have like maybe three managers or three maintenance people.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. It's
Right.
insane.
And let me say this, like, because of the strategic and systematic neglect of Yamacraw Village,
Mm-hmm.
um, there are, there are some portions of the community that needs to be redeveloped and updated, right?
Definitely.
Right? I'm not saying that, but at the same time, that doesn't mean that you like there is an opportunity, there is a path forward to whereas they can actually be redeveloped, but the whole community can actually be redeveloped as a mixed income community,
Mm-hmm.
right? To whereas you have the opportunity to whereas the residents or even though those across the city, who may be on affordable a low income have those Section 8 vouchers, to whereas they can actually have a residence within the same building in the same community as
Mm-hmm.
those who may have with market rate and even above market rate housing and condominium options which they have planned. For Yamacraw, like there is that opportunity. It can happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it best to redevelop it in a way and then you just relocate and or co-locate all of the residents in Yamacraw into one building. That way you can just further alienate and isolate them, right? That's not the best path forward. The best path forward and the highest and best use would be to redevelop it in a way in which it's a mixed income community. Real
Mm-hmm.
simple. It can be done. And I have several ideas of how it can be done, and I also have several examples of how it could be done. Especially from the Washington D.C. area. So again, it can be done. The city and the housing authority just have to have a willingness to do it.
I was gonna say with those best practice models, coupled with a willing heart and a willing spirit, it can be done for sure.
Right.
But we see how, I ascribe to the fact that the best indicator of future behavior is past behavior. And Mr. Benton, when we look at how the residents were cheated out of Chatham Apartments, bounced out of Bayview, and cleared out of Clearview, there is no expectation that there ever was an intent to do the right thing by way of Yamacraw. And for that reason, we are so grateful to you and your family for stepping up. I am so grateful to the Weeping Time Coalition, Pastor
Yes.
Small
Pastor
and
Small.
and the other advocates with Saving Weeping Time, Alderwoman Lanier, with Pat Gunn and Susie B. King Taylor. We have champions who are stepping up, speaking out, and speaking up for the right thing. They are taking on causes. While some may think it's impossible and it appear at first glance overwhelming, you all, with your tenacious spirit, you stayed the course, you checked all the right boxes, you did the research, you dug deep and spent your own money, And
Yep.
so we are grateful to God for your intellect, for your knowledge, for your relationships. And it is only because of people like you we will save Savannah. When we have organizations that are attempting to hijack our culture and hijack the history of African Americans in this city and make it their own, it's we don't want to create an alarmist scenario, but certainly we want people to start paying attention. Every other culture in this city embrace and hold and high regard their culture.
Right.
But for some reason, when it comes to African American culture, there are a few who are among the elite who feel as if we have to put a cup over the flame. And we are here to say that no more. No more.
No.
We will work alongside you with as much as we can do from this position, from this platform, with my voice. We'll continue to lend energy and lend attention to these efforts. And with that, I want to give you a final opportunity to have any closing words, but we want to close and say goodnight to Savannah. Anything else, Mr. Benton?
No, that's it. In closing, I would just again invite and encourage everyone to click on the link for the survey, fill it out, send it back to the city. If you need to, you can email it to me. We definitely invite everyone out to the church this coming Saturday, where we will actually be giving you an in-person update about what's going on in Yamacraw Village there at First Branch Church, and actually going out in the community. Like this is work to be done. There's a lot of people talking about work. We are very, very few people actually doing the work. So come join us. Don't be afraid, about Village. Like it truly is a caring community, right? Unfortunately, yes, we had some incidents there, but we all know that is, honestly, lack of proper security and even police patrolling within the community, and that's by design.
That's a whole nother show.
That's
That's
by
a
design.
yes, it's by design, and it's no wonder more than what happens there has not happened. So we know in great detail. Data and statistics show it's a perfect formula. It's a perfect recipe for exactly what's happening there. And when we insulate, just as we insulated a police chief, and we saw what happened to our police department, we're insulating Earlene Davis, and we see what's happening to our housing development units in the city.
Exactly.
And for decades, leadership at the housing authority has been insulated, and as a result, we have had residents kicked out. We have had residents blocked. And we have had residents charge excessive fees and rents. It's out of control.
Yeah.
And we want to
Just know and understand that the actions of Earlene Davis, the actions of Mayor Van Johnson, the actions of those elected officials and just city employees who actually have the authority to do the right thing, the residents are going to be the one paying for that.
Yes.
The taxpayers.
Yes.
The taxpayers, the paying these lawsuits and everything else, that is coming out of the taxpayers' money. So even if when taxes are increased to cover some of these lawsuits, which that is likely to happen, understand that you control that by your vote. Real simple. You control that by your vote. So,
well, this lawsuit is just one drop in the bucket among the many that we have received as of late. It's really a sad commentary. We'll probably have a full show on that one day as well. But we are hopeful to move forward with better in 2023. We pray that it will get better. We pray that it will, but it's already getting better. You know why?
It is.
Because people are mobilized, they are engaged, and they are more informed than ever before. And that's what will make the difference at the end of the day. So with that, Mr. Benton, I want to thank you so much. It is election season, y'all. It's election season. And guess what? I want to continue to talk all important issues that are important to Savannah and to the life of Savannah. We'll come back to you later in the week and talk shop about politics. But until then, just know that I love you, Savannah.
All right. Thank y'all.
Good night.
like that.